So guys, in this video we're going to be comparing payment gateways for Shopify dropshipping and which one should you be using and why. We're going to be jumping into the computer right now and showing you guys which one has the best rates, the best prices and the least amount of issues. Stripe. Okay guys, so let's compare payment gateways for Shopify. Now, there are quite a few different payment gateways available to integrate inside of Shopify. I'm just going to be going over 4 or 5 of them inside of this video and comparing the options, the fees, the user friendliness of these different platforms, and really recommending you guys what ones I would start off with or use if I was going to start off again, and what I would use if I was scaling and growing my store. So that being said, let's start off with Shopify Payments. So by default, Shopify Payments is the payment processor that is integrated with your Shopify store. Now, in some countries, Shopify does not allow Shopify Payments to be integrated with stores. For example, in India, I'm pretty sure you can't have a store that runs on Shopify Payments just because Shopify Payments isn't supported in India. And if you don't know that but Shopify Payments is actually supported by Stripe. It's powered on Stripe. So if Stripe is not supported in India, then neither will Shopify Payments. And you can basically search it up and see what sites Stripe is and not supported on. But yeah, so Shopify Payments for the $29 plan, and now the fees on Shopify Payments does depend on what plan you are choosing. So for the $29 plan, if you are using Shopify Payments, then the fee is 2.2% and 20p, or that's around 30 cents per transaction. And obviously, the more you pay for your monthly plan, the less the fee you will get, because Shopify obviously want to reward you in some sort of way for choosing their higher plans. So if you go up to the $299 a month, you're still paying 1.6% plus 20 cents per transaction, which is quite a lot, but there is a 0.6% difference over here. And the only reasons that I did increase my plan from the $29 to $79 to $299 is just because these fees equated more than the difference that these plans cost. For example, the difference between these two plans is only $50, but the 0.3% in fees is removed. So you want to make sure that your 0.3% of your revenue is more than $50 before you are upgrading your plan to this amount. So let's just see what 0.3. So 0.3, how do I do the math? I believe you times 333 times 50 equals. Yeah, you want to make sure your revenue is past $16,000 or $17,000 really to be on the $79 a month plan if you are using Shopify Payments, because the fees will be lower in this plan than it will cost on this plan. So even though you're paying more for the plan, if you work out the amount you're paying after the fees and stuff, then this plan will be cheaper if you're doing more than $17,000 in revenue. And same goes for here. There is another 3% drop if you go to the $299 plan. So you want to make sure this 0.3% is more than $220 a month. So that would be 333 times 220. So if you're doing more than $73,000 a month in revenue, so basically your $1 million store, then you want to use the $299 plan. But of course, if you're a $1 million store, and you probably won't be using Shopify Payments either way. And there's not really much other good features between the plans, really. The credit card processing fees is the only thing that's interesting to me when it comes to upgrading or degrading your plan if you're past those certain revenue thresholds. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk a bit more about the Shopify Payments platform or processor itself. So in terms of fees, it's probably one of the better ones, but I don't necessarily recommend it, especially when you're scaling, just because there are loads of holds and there's loads of issues with the fraud team. And Shopify are always looking through your store. They're reviewing everything on your store, making sure it's in full compliance in terms of products, in terms of images and stuff like that. And if you have any issues with them whatsoever, they'll just give you a 25% hold. They'll hold your money for 90 days and they won't give it to you until you, for example, fulfill your orders. One time for me, they wanted me to fulfill all my orders just so that they can release payments to me. And this was when I was starting out, and I didn't even have money to fulfill the orders. And Shopify was holding back the money I generated until I fulfilled the order. So it was kind of a dilemma going on. But anyway, I sorted it out. So I don't recommend Shopify payments. There's loads of issues when it comes to the fraud team. You have to check your emails every day, and it's really frustrating because things don't get sold very fast with them. And yes, I wouldn't recommend Shopify payments, especially if you're scaling. If you're a beginner, then in terms of fees, you want to be making receiving the most amount of money as possible. So I guess that is your best option. But yeah, just scaling, definitely not. So there's a $15 chargeback fee on Shopify with Shopify payments. And if you guys don't know what a chargeback is, it's basically when someone calls up their bank and complains and says, "Hey, I haven't received the product," or "Hey, I'm very angry with the product," and the bank basically reverses the transaction and sends the money directly back to the customer, and you don't have any say in it. You can't say, wait, I didn't agree to this refund," because it's not like a normal refund process where you click a refund button and they get their money back. They just complain, and the bank will automatically reverse the transaction because the bank is always in favor of the customer. Now, when it comes to chargebacks, you can actually claim a chargeback. You can appeal for it, saying, "Hey, this this is fraud. Blah blah blah. I did submit the product. You can submit your tracking number," and probably 10% of them that you do reappeal for get approved. You win in your favor, but 90% of them they don't get approved in your favor. And on top of the amount that is fully refunded to them, no questions asked, and you don't even get the product back. On top of that, you also have to pay a $15 fee with Shopify payments, which is an extra bummer because not only have you lost the money on the product, but you also lost money from product cost, and now this extra $15 fee that Shopify payments is charging you. So that's a big downside to it. But one thing about it, Shopify payments, is that you're allowed to have dynamic checkout buttons on your store. So if you don't know what dynamic checkout is, it's basically there's Apple Pay, Google Pay, and other buttons like that where you can easily complete an order with one click. Now that is something that is very beneficial, and I do recommend you guys to get these dynamic checkout buttons because the only other place you can get them from is Stripe, and I'll get into that one next. But I would recommend you guys get dynamic checkout buttons on your page because it makes the checkout process much faster and easier for your customer. But yeah, that is quickly Shopify payments. Let's go to Stripe now. So yeah, when it comes to Stripe, the fee on Stripe for transactions is 2.9% plus 20p, 20 cent per transaction. So that is basically the same as Shopify payments over here. That's also 2.2%, so it's slightly higher, 0.7% higher, and you can't obviously upgrade to a higher plan to get a lower fee like Shopify. But one thing there is with Stripe, and let me just remove this real quick. If a European card, if you're in the Great Britain, that is, I don't think this applies to the US if you're in the US, but if you're in Great Britain or if you're in Europe, then there's only a 1.4% fee on any transactions that happen within Europe. So a significant drop, a 1.5% difference of credit card rates, which is a big amount, especially if you're primarily selling in the UK or the European market. That is a great 1.5% reduction. But one thing that you do have to notice is if you integrate Stripe on your Shopify store, which is basically the same platform that Shopify payments is run off, Shopify do charge you an extra fee on top of this 2.9% or 1.4% just because you are not using their platform, which is kind of a bummer. But basically, Shopify will charge you an extra 2%, which is crazy, on top of this 2.9%, just because you aren't using their Shopify's main payment provider. And most people aren't using their main payment provider, so Shopify is basically taking advantage of this and making money on autopilot, on free, just because they can with this. So they're charging 2% on top of 2.9%, which means if you're on the basic Shopify plan, they'll charge you 4.9% plus 20 cent per transaction if you're using Stripe. Now that might seem like quite a lot amount, and it basically is. That's like, if you have a £10 order, that's easily, what is that, 10p, 50, 70p off your order, just gone like that, just because you're using Stripe. And one of the things about Stripe is it's not as much of an issue when it comes to fraud and protection, stuff like that, as Shopify is. Shopify is also a constant hassle. Shopify payments is always holding your money. They want you to change this about this product. They want you to change this image. This is copyright. That is trademark, and there's loads of issues when it comes to Shopify, but Stripe is all easygoing. There's no issues whatsoever. They barely email you about anything, and you aren't really spammed by their support team or anything. So that's why I really recommend getting Stripe, even though there's this 4.9% fee attached to it. I would be willing to pay that 2% extra per transaction just to not go through all the hassle that Shopify payments you have to go through. And obviously it changes to 1% if you have the $79 plan on Shopify, and if you have the $299 plan, it drops to 0.5%. So that's one of the only reasons I would consider upgrading my Shopify plan, just because you get lower credit card processing fees. And I did the math for you before. If you've passed 16,000, then you should be looking on not 16,000, a 1% drop and $50, which means if you're past 5,000 a month, you should be on this plan. And if you're past, I can't do the math like that, but yeah, 5,000 a month, you should be on a $79 plan, because you're saving 1% right there. But yeah, just Stripe, again, staying with Stripe, there's a 15% chargeback fee, $15 chargeback fee. For me, it's £10. It depends on where you are. UK is £10. US, it's $15. Canada, I'm pretty sure it's $25 or $20. But there's not many chargebacks on the platform, and I feel like Stripe is better than Shopify payments in terms of user friendliness. I mean, you can easily navigate inside of Stripe. You can reply to these chargeback claims quite easily. You can manage, your payouts, the times, the dates, everything like that inside of Stripe. It's very easy to use. Shopify payments, when it comes to all that, it's kind of complicated, and there's not much flexibility. You can't customize most of the controls. So that is why I would personally recommend Stripe over Shopify payments, especially when you're scaling. Stripe is probably the one you should be using. I haven't had any issues with it so far, and I recommend you guys to use that one. But yeah, those are the first two. The second one, or the third one actually, is 2Checkout. Now, I don't have much prior experience with 2Checkout. I do know one or two people who have been using it. But on 2Checkout, there's a 2.9% transaction charge, plus 30 cents per transaction. So again, it's basically the same as Stripe, except for, there's no European cards, lower rate. It's more than Shopify payments, as expected, and again, you have to pay another 2% on top of this 2.9%, just because Shopify payments, or Shopify, is looking to make more money, because they know not many people use their payment provider, their default one. But what can you do? That's just something you have to live with. So it automatically becomes 4.9%, but I'll just say what's listed on their website for the time being. And again, there's a 1.1% cross-border fee, which puts you at a disadvantage if you're targeting countries outside of the USA on FB or wherever, Instagram. And what that means is basically, if there's a transaction taking place in Canada, in the UK, in Europe, you don't pay 2.9%, you pay 3.9%. So, that is a significant increase. That means the total one is up to 5.9%. And yeah, it's quite high fees. Even Stripe's better than that. Most other payment gateways are better than that. But this is just something 2Checkout have. They just charge an extra 1% if you're selling abroad, which is something that, it's not the best. And there's a $20 chargeback fee, so that's more than any other platform we've talked about so far. $20 means that every time someone, whether it's legitimately or legitimately tells their bank that they haven't received the item or they're not happy, they immediately take that amount away from you and an extra $20. So yeah, make of that as you wish. So after the reviews that I found when searching up or researching about 2Checkout, and I've asked a few friends about this, they say that account stability is not the best on the platform, and it's just about like Shopify and Shopify payments, just because you get pestered by their fraud team, their protection team, quite a lot, and there's loads of security checks and protocols that you have to go through and follow when it comes to obeying with their rules and stuff like that. For example, when it came to Stripe, I didn't really need to submit any ID. I didn't need to show my date of birth and driver's license and stuff like that. When it was Shopify payments, I had to, change everything to my dad's name, put his name on that, send his images in, and it all got kind of confusing, because I didn't know what I was managing, what was in my name, what was in his name, and it's just a big mess. But with Stripe, you don't have many security checks like that. 2Checkout, I heard there's quite a few issues when it comes to that, because they're quite on top of things, should we say. It's not like Stripe is not reliable if you look at it in that way. It's just that Stripe are more lenient on those types of things because I haven't had any issues with them so far, and they've been my main payment gateway. But anyway, on to checkout, the payment schedule and other elements aside the dashboard aren't user friendly, is what people are saying. You can't really schedule like Stripe. You can schedule payments to come every single day. On to checkout, I heard it's always weekly payments, and you can't decide what day it will be, which is not that beneficial, especially if you're looking to scale your store really fast. You want the cash flow to be coming in on a continuous basis. But if it's weekly, you're kind of hindering your own growth, which is something you guys really should not be doing. But yeah, fourth, let's move on to number 4 is PayPal. Infamous PayPal, the notorious PayPal. So on PayPal, there's a 3.4% transaction fee and 20 cent. Unless you're doing over $2,000 a month in revenue, then that fee drops 0.5% to 9.5% and 20p. Now, I don't think that Shopify adds an extra 2% on top of PayPal, and the reason I say that is because PayPal is an alternative payment option. So with Stripe and Authorize.net and to checkout, well, I'll talk about Authorize.net next, but those are basically replacements for Shopify payments. PayPal is something that can work alongside Shopify payments. So you can have Shopify payments and PayPal on your site, but it's not like you can have Stripe and Shopify payments on your Stripe site, because they're two different things. Two same things, but PayPal and Shopify payments are two different things. So you can have both of them on your site at the same time. So there's no extra 2% fee, but there is this not that much, but 3.4% fee, which is, considering the fact that you don't have the 2% on top of it, it's better than to checkout and Stripe. But my main issue when it comes to PayPal is, first of all, I'm permanently banned from life for PayPal, which is just something that happened. I'm going to probably explain for that in a different video, or maybe not permanently banned for life. Until I'm 18, I'm pretty sure I'm banned from PayPal, and I don't even think I'll get my money back for 180 days. They haven't even told me when I'll get my money back, which is just really random, but they've held it. But the main issue with PayPal is that people keep on filing unnecessary disputes and claims and chargebacks, and it's so easy to do within the PayPal platform that people can easily do it, and they can take advantage of you. For example, in PayPal, all you need to do is go to a transaction, click a button, and make it a claim, and that's basically it. And PayPal typically favors the buyer side, and they don't really favor the seller that much. And normally, the buyer ends up getting their money back, and we're just like, wait, we haven't even got an opportunity to talk, and PayPal is basically in favor of the buyer. Now, if you are a buyer on the platform, then it is beneficial for you, but it's not beneficial for the seller. So that's why I personally don't use PayPal. Some of the top stores don't even use PayPal, just because it's not user friendly in that manner. There's loads of issues. There's really high dispute rate, really high refund rate when it comes to PayPal. I mean, compared to PayPal and Stripe, I've received more chargebacks on PayPal, and I've probably had like 1,000 transactions using PayPal. I've had more chargebacks using that platform than Stripe, and I've probably had over 10,000 transactions on Stripe, which just tells you how bad it is when it comes to high dispute rate. Another thing is PayPal have random holds on your account. So one day they might just decide, we're going to put a 180-day hold on your account until you verify this, and this. And again, random security checks, you don't even know why they do that. You don't know when they're going to respond, and PayPal's kind of an issue like Shopify payments. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not okay, and I wouldn't recommend you guys to have PayPal on your store when you're scaling. When you're starting off, then people, when they see PayPal, they feel more secure. They feel like, hey, this guy accepts PayPal, and they're more likely to purchase from you just because they have a website, a processor that they're familiar with. But when you're scaling, people start to take advantage of that, and I don't really recommend you guys doing it. What I personally think of people who use PayPal is like, these people are insecure, they don't really trust your brand, they're kind of half-hearted, because if they did really trust you, then they would type their card info in anyway. Like when I purchase from a site, I never use PayPal. Well, I can't use PayPal anyway. I normally type in my card info because I can trust them. If I use PayPal, that means I'm kind of unsure, maybe this guy's scammy, maybe it's a bit dodgy, and it might just click refund and easily get my money back. So that's why I don't use PayPal. high dispute rate, and yeah. So finally, we're going to talk about authorize.net. Now, I'm going to quickly jump into a few big stores. I'm going to reveal to you what payment providers they use. So yeah, I'm going to quickly jump into a few big stores and show you guys what payment providers they use. But quickly I jump into the last one, which is authorize.net. So basically there's two different pricing structures on side of authorize.net. The main one being 2.9% plus 30 cent per transaction, and of course a digital Shopify 2% fee. But other than that, the other payment structure is only 10 cent per transaction and a $25 monthly fee. Now, the reason there's two different pricing structures is because one is for a merchant account and one is for a payment gateway, just a payment gateway account. So what the difference between those two are is with merchant accounts, Authorize.net has directly integrated and partnered with credit card companies so that they can accept payments and process payments on their own platform. But with only a payment gateway account, Authorize.net is using just default using e-commerce settings to process payments. So for the cheap one is obviously a 10 cent per transaction fee, but obviously the downside being $25 a month when it comes to costs. And when you're starting off, I don't really recommend you guys get anything that has upfront costs to it, because let's say if you don't make any sales or you're struggling to make sales, then having a $25 monthly bill is kind of a weight you have to pull that is not necessary. And even though the fees is significantly lower if you're going to pick this plan, only 10 cent per transaction, I wouldn't recommend you guys carrying a $25 monthly a fee around with you guys. So yeah, it is probably the best when it comes to pricing, not for the merchant account, but just for the payment gateway. But again, I see why a few of you guys might go for it just because of the fees. But as a beginner, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to you guys. But let's quickly jump into a few stores, wrap this one up real quick, and show you what they're using. So we'll go to Fashion Nova first, and we'll click add to cart. And by the way, this is called a dynamic checkout button. So if they click this button right here, they'll be able to complete their order with Google Pay. Same with on Safari. This will change into Apple Pay, and they'll be able to complete their order real quick. Let's just remove this. No thanks. Add to cart. I added quite a lot of stuff to cart. Always been a gift card. So they accept PayPal, they accept Amazon Pay, Google Pay. Now, Amazon Pay is only accepted, or Amazon Pay only accepts sites, applicants who are doing high revenue figures and they have a registered business. So that's why I don't have Amazon Pay at the moment. But if we go here, let's just fill in this stuff. Oh, you guys know my address. Have to blur this stuff out. Continue payment method. So yeah, they only accept, this is probably based on Stripe, just because I know most big stores like this use Stripe, PayPal, and Amazon Pay. So those are the three that this Fashion Nova are using. But yeah, Amazon Pay is probably something you will only get as you scale your store, because you wouldn't have that option available to you immediately. And let's go to Logan Paul's Maverick. Now, this is actually a Shopify store. By the way, if you guys want to know if it's a Shopify store or not, all you need to do is go to the domain name, remove anything at the end, and type in /admin. When you type in /admin, the Shopify login page will appear. So that's how you know if something's a Shopify store or not. So you can, look at stuff like that. Also, if you have the Commerce Inspector app, they'll be able to tell you if it's a Shopify store or not. They'll tell you the themes, sales, if you have the pro plan, the products that they've launched recently, and different stuff like that, like the apps they have. And yeah, so Commerce Inspector, I'm pretty sure that's a free tool that you can find on the Chrome web extension store. But let's quickly add something to cart, and I'm pretty sure their checkout page is quite different to most stores' checkout page. Let's go international checkout. I'm actually not quite sure what payment processor they use. As you can see, their checkout and their delivery info and stuff like that is all on the same page. You just type in your details at the end. I'm pretty sure this is not Stripe. They're probably using their own processor, or processor that they've privately partnered with, just because Maverick by Logan Paul does high amount of revenue, a high amount of numbers. But yeah, I'm not sure what this store uses, but as you can see, they're not using something like PayPal or Amazon Pay or Stripe and stuff like that. Let's quickly go on to Dude Perfect store, which is the last one we'll quickly go over. Quick add to cart, boom, 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 checkout. They all have their own customized themes. So they use PayPal, Amazon Pay, Google Pay, and I'm pretty sure they'll all be using Stripe, but they do quite high numbers as well. So they might have privately partnered with somebody. See, BitPay, which is basically a Bitcoin version or a cryptocurrency. You pay with cryptocurrency. Installments by Afterpay. So what Afterpay is, it's basically like Klarna payments, and basically they charge you a small amount now, they charge you again a small amount later, and they charge you a third time after a week or two, or you can set that up however you want. So as you can see, they're using quite a few different payment options just because not many people are using them. So, that's what basically the top guys are doing, BitPay and Afterpay. That's something you guys might want to look into. I don't use any of this. I did once upon a time use Klarna payments, which is quite similar to installments by Afterpay. But I didn't really have it around for a long time, so I can't really tell you guys really much about that. But finally, let's just wrap one up real quick. So what payments processors would I use when I was starting out? So if I was starting out, let's say I was doing less than $3,000 to $5,000 a month in revenue, pounds a month in revenue, number one would be Shopify payments, two would be PayPal, just because in the early stages you won't find many issues with them, three would be Stripe, four would be 2Checkout, and five would be Authorize.net. Again, I've heard that they had quite a lot of account stability issues, and I wouldn't recommend them. And again, 2Checkout, quite high fees, so that's why it's number 4 on the list. But as I'm scaling, I would definitely, number 1, switch to Stripe, just because Stripe has no issues whatsoever, no holds, no security checks and unnecessary things like that. So number 1 would definitely be Stripe. Number 2 would be Amazon payments. Now I don't have it yet, but I do know the top stores are using it, and if the top stores are using it, then there must be something beneficial and good from it. See, the way you can decipher stuff is based on what other people are doing. If other people are doing really well with Amazon payments, then there must be something behind it, some reason they use it. So yeah, 2 would be Amazon payments, but that's obviously if you're registered and you meet some of their criteria and requirements. 3, Authorize.net. 4, 2Checkout. I just put that below Authorize.net because of the fees there. 5 would be Shopify payments. That's basically a no-go. 5, Shopify payments shouldn't even be on the list, and PayPal also shouldn't be on the list just because it's so much the issue when you're scaling. But again, that's basically based in my order of preference. But yeah, guys, hope you did enjoy that video. Make sure to drop a like down below if you did, and let's jump into real person mode to wrap this one up. So guys, I hope you did enjoy that video on the top payment gateways for Shopify Dropshipping. I did list out my personal preferences at the end there, and I hope you guys did find value in it. And if you did, make sure to drop a like down below so I know you are enjoying this type of content. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, the Phil Fam. We are growing the Phil Fam, and I'll be posting a video real soon about my 2019 goals for the channel, where I want to be, and also reviewing my 2018 goals. And stuff like that. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, because you don't want to miss the epic growth of the channel that is coming very soon. You don't want to miss the growth of the Phil Fam, and the notification bell icon, because you want to be notified every time I drop awesome fire content like this, and make sure you don't miss any single one of these amazing videos with practical content in every single one of them. So guys, I hope you did enjoy, and again, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section down below. I'll get back to you, again, normally within 24 hours, no more than that. I'll get back to you. Or you can hit me up on Instagram at alexphilip_1, and I reply to any of the DMs there, again, in usually 24 hours, because I'm quite active on the Instagram. But yeah guys, thanks for watching.